This video contains edited clips from a video that I made for another class of students who were writing a narrative of a work experience, but the point of the video is to talk about essay structure and to talk about in particular, the 5-paragraph essay. It's not to say that the 5-paragraph essay is wrong. It's just to point out why it's not a sophisticated pattern that we often use in college writing. So, I hope it makes sense to you. The video does refer to some pages in Rules for Writers, and you'll be able to tell how old this is because my hair is much shorter, and I guess I was younger too. So, as most of you are probably writing your first essay drafts this week, I wanted to talk to you about the dreaded 5-paragraph essay that most college professors hate to see appear in their inboxes. No matter when the last time was that you were in high school, whether it was just a few months ago or many years ago, you may have learned how to write the 5-paragraph essay. That may be what most of your teachers taught you. I think maybe high schools are trying to get away from that now, but you may have attended a high school where that was still the typical kind of essay to write. And in college, we would prefer that you focus more on what you're trying to say and that you say it well, and that you think about all the forms of evidence and support that you need, and that you explain thoroughly, and that you use different sorts of rhetorical strategies to say what you want to say, and that you don't think about a formula for an essay. And that's what the 5-paragraph essay is. It's a formula. It's a formula, though, mostly for children. It's a formula to teach children the basics of an essay. And so the 5-paragraph essay has an introduction, it has a conclusion, it has 3 body paragraphs, and those body paragraphs are usually some sort of an explanation of a kind of an amateurish thesis that states that something is something because of 3 ideas, and then those ideas are explained in the 3 body paragraphs. So it is a formula. It's pretty easy to learn, and once you learn it pretty well, it's kind of hard to deviate from that formula. And so that's one reason I like to start with a narrative essay, because a narrative really doesn't lend itself to the 5-paragraph essay that well. If you try to write a narrative essay in the formula of a 5-paragraph essay, it's not going to be interesting. And a narrative, which is a story, above all, should be interesting to read. So, a narrative essay is certainly going to have a thesis idea, which is whatever point you're trying to make in your story about your work experience. But it's not necessarily going to be a thesis statement in a typical introduction. If you're writing a story, you want your introduction to be something that catches the reader, that is very interesting. Think of any novel or short story that you've picked up and look at the opening paragraph, and you'll see that in narratives, we don't begin like a typical essay introduction. So that's why I like to start with a narrative, because a narrative gives you some freedom from that typical essay formula that you may have ingrained in your mind. So what do you want to do then if you're not going to write a 5-paragraph essay? And I'm going to refer to some pages in the book Rules for Writers that I have right here. On page 17, for example, at the bottom, section 1D, Diana Hacker talks about sketching a plan, and then at the top of the next page she gives an example of a list. If you're not an outline maker, I'm not an outline maker myself when I write. I tend to be a list maker. She suggests you start with a thesis idea. It might not be the one that you keep. So in your case, it would be what point do you want to make by telling the story of a work experience? And then to have a list of ideas. And she has here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ideas that follow after her initial thesis idea. So, if you were to think of each one of those ideas as being their own paragraph, then clearly you're already way beyond the 5-paragraph essay. And if you can write an essay in the words that are allotted to this assignment and use less than 5 paragraphs, if that's what works, if that's what makes a good story, I don't have a problem with that. But I know this sounds like another formula, but I'd like you to just try to do anything but a 5-paragraph essay, just to break yourself out of that habit. She also lists on page 19 a more formal outline. So if you get to the point in your writing, it may not happen when you're doing the first draft, you may decide to do an outline later just to get yourself better organized. Page 19 has a formal outline, and there are 5 Roman numerals in that, but don't think that that means 5 paragraphs. Those are just section ideas, and a section of a paper can be more than 1 paragraph. So that is not unusual in academic writing for a section of a paper to be about one topic, but to cover that topic in more than 1 paragraph. And so if you looked through this formal outline, you might see that some of the A's and B's that are under the Roman numerals would make pretty good sized paragraphs on their own. And she notes at the bottom of page 18 that this formal outline results in the sample paper that's in 56B, which starts on page 467. And you might want to look at that and compare it to that formal outline, because that is an essay that has 9 paragraphs. Then at the end of this chapter 3 on the writing process on page 35, she has another sample essay by a student, and this was referred to earlier in the chapter. It's an essay on Hooked on Credit Cards, and this particular essay has 8 paragraphs, so that's a pretty good example to look at. Now, neither of these essay samples are narratives. Well, I've gone way over my 5 minutes. I'm over 8 minutes now, and I want to stop, but I just want to encourage you to try to break out of that formula of the 5-paragraph essay.